Okay, I'm going to get started. Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight as we walk you through and reveal our strategic plan for the next 4 years. We're very excited about this and we're really excited to share it with you. I just want to go through a couple of housekeeping notes to start with. My name is Emma, for those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting, and I am the CEO of Volleyball BC. We are recording this session, so we will be posting it on our website at a later time. We also really want this to be an interactive session and for you to have the ability to ask any questions that you might have. So if things occur to you as we're going along, please type your questions into the chat function that's at the bottom of your screen. We're going to have a pause halfway through to review any of the questions that have come in, and then we will also be taking questions at the end. So again, please feel free to type or put into the chat whatever questions or comments you'd like to make. So we're going to first of all get into it. So Kevin, can you switch to the next slide? Perfect. So this is just a quick overview of what we'll be covering tonight. We are going to be walking you through our strategic planning process, give you a little bit of insight into what people told us, and then go into the actual Volleyball BC house, which is the new strategic framework that we're launching, talk about our vision, mission, and values, and then get into some details about our key initiatives that form part of the strategic plan. And as I said, we'll have time for questions and comments as we go through. Next slide, please. So to kick us off, I'm really excited to introduce to you Dorami Ailing, who is our president of the board, who has overseen all of this whole process.
Thank you so much, Emma, and welcome everyone. Volleyball BC has a commitment to diversity and inclusion in building respectful relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples in Canada. It is customary to acknowledge the traditional territories or ancestral lands of Indigenous peoples. We are meeting virtually, so I would like to acknowledge that the Indigenous peoples are the traditional stewards of the lands and the waters where each of us are attending this meeting today. In the fall of 2019, the board initiated the development of the next Volleyball BC strategy. We felt it was really important that we hear from our members and create a strategy that addresses their concerns and priorities. And for this reason, we invested a significant amount of time and effort in a consultation phase. I would like to recognize and thank all of our members that participated in the surveys and the various individual and group discussions. As you will hear from Emma tonight, the information we gathered through this extensive process was invaluable. It was clear that you felt it was important for us to put the participant at the center of everything that we do, focused on holistic development that looks after the participants' well-being while ensuring that we have a sport that is inclusive and welcoming. This served as an inspiration for our board and staff who worked diligently in 2020 to develop strategies that will help us grow the sport over the next few years. The pandemic may have slowed our progress on the plan, but the board and staff remain committed to complete the process, and we are proud to share this important work with you today. I want to take this opportunity to express my appreciation to the board, our dedicated staff and volunteers who assisted us in updrafting the strategy. We look forward tonight to updating you on the Volleyball BC strategy, and we welcome your questions and your feedback. Thank you so much for joining us. Back to you, Emma.
Thanks, Dorami. Okay, so we're going to get straight into it. And as Dorami mentioned, we have had quite a lengthy planning process, simply because a small thing like an epidemic, a pandemic came in the midst of it. So we kicked this off in fall 2019, and then we spent the first quarter of 2020 essentially trying to get everybody's feedback. In March, we regrouped to review that feedback, and then we had a little hiatus while we all grappled with COVID-19. And then we resumed the process in the fall and got to where we are today. So I think it's really important to acknowledge up front that this strategic plan is looking at the long term. It's looking at our next few years to 2024. And so although we know that we're not out of the pandemic yet, and it's very much a reality for us, and it's really impacting our ability to play and participate right now. We do know that at some point we're going to be out the other side of that. And so this plan is very much focused on what we're trying, where we're moving to go, and what we're trying to achieve in the long term. Okay, so the starting point, next slide, please, Kevin. The starting point for the whole process, and as Dorothy said, was the important focus for us was that we engaged with our members. We really wanted this to be a plan that responded to the needs that you identified and the priorities that you see for our sport. So from mid-January to mid-February in 2020, we did extensive consultation. We launched both adult and youth-focused surveys. We sent them out by emails, newsletters, we posted it on social media. You may have seen one of these posters around. They were at most of our events. We also did have a real special focus on trying to get responses from youth. And so during the club events that were held in January and February, we had posters there. People were able to fill in our survey there. We incentivized people by having draws. We really tried very hard to make sure that we got a large number of responses. And it was really successful, our consultation, and people were very appreciative that we had taken the chance to go to them. So as you can see, we got approximately 540 surveys, and we got the vast majority of those were youth. And actually out of, because even though the number says that it's less, that there were more adults, some of the adults were responding on behalf of their players. So actually in total, we had about 75% were representative of youth, and a chunk of those, 41%, were directly from youth themselves. And alongside the survey and our mass outreach to people, we then also held tailored one-to-one interviews with about 30 stakeholders and key partners for us, people that we sat down with in more depth to really hear about what they thought we should be doing and what the priority should be for our sport. Next slide, please. So again, just to give you a quick overview of what people said and who responded, you can see here, as I say, that there was a large percentage that were adults, but then there was an equal percentage that was youth. There was a chunk of the youth that were also the parent responders. But also in the adults, what's interesting is we did make a good inroad into talking to or reaching a diverse group of people. So we had sponsors respond, partners respond, coaches, referees, club owners. There were people from a variety of backgrounds that responded to them. But our main, as I say, our main indicator of success for us was that out of the youth respondents, about 3/4 of them were the youth themselves. So we felt really positive that the plan would be very informed by those people who are coming up playing volleyball now and will be playing volleyball into the future. Another comment is that most of those who respond, well, almost all of those who responded in the youth category and a chunk of those in the adults were involved with our club season and the provincials and our whole club competition structure. But we also did tap into our recreational and beach participants too, especially on the adult side. Slide, please. So one of the biggest questions that we asked people was, what do you think are the main issues facing volleyball? And these are the results that we heard from both youth and adults. For adults, the top 3 responses were the lack of options to play outside of the Lower Mainland. People felt that there were options here to play recreationally, but not really anywhere else in the province. The lack of facilities, which is coupled somewhat with the lack of opportunities to play. And again, similar theme, too few events or too few programs. So it was very much the theme there was around like, we need to have some more, we need to cater more for our demographic. For the youth side of things, it was a little bit of a similar story. The top answer was that there were not enough club teams. There were more kids who really want to participate in our club structure than there are places and opportunities for them to play. And again, coupled with this, which I think is linked, is that there was the other main issue was the quality and the availability of coaches. So that very much goes hand in hand. If we don't have the coaches who are qualified or who are able to coach people, then we can't operate as many club teams. And then the third issue, interestingly, was affordability and the increasing cost of sport, which is very much a trend that is being seen across all sport, is the rising costs around youth sport and the professionalization of sport, and really us, I guess, needing to be aware that we're in danger of becoming something that is more elite than it is accessible. So they were the top three issues for youth. So different, but very similar in that all of them were very much around the infrastructure that we need to build in order to develop our sport. Next slide, please. So then we asked people, so what are your top program or service priorities for Volleyball BC? Like, what should we be delivering? And you can see from both the adults and the youth responses that it was very much about the programs and the events that we're already delivering. So people really liked the club tournaments. They really liked the provincial championship and the adult rec. We scored highly on that. People thought that they were very well run. What is interesting, though, is that the mental, emotional, and social well-being of players ranked really highly on both sides. So that's that less tangible element of what really creates a positive sport experience. On the youth side as well, along with that, there was concern or a feeling that we should be focusing on multi-sport, on participants being able to participate in multiple different programs and not feeling that they should be selecting volleyball early or specializing. And then there was also the desire to have more information and guidance about, like, how do I develop? What are my options? Where do I go if I really want to take this seriously? And then the flip side of that was, well, what do you think are the top priorities for actually developing the sport? And you can see, again, very similar responses. By far, the most popular response on both sides was coach education and development. If we don't have these key parts of our community, then really as a sport, we cannot develop and we cannot even possibly sustain what we're able to deliver. And the same goes for referee education and development. That was up there too as really important in terms of protecting those participants in our system. The other interesting thing is we asked a lot of more detailed questions, and I'm really only giving you the high level results, but there was a very strong sense, probably about 70 to 80% amongst respondents, that referees and coaches should be background checked, they should be screened, they should be trained. And I think that really speaks to the fact that we're seeing now in sport that there's an expectation there that people, that we're not amateur sport anymore. We have to have people who are well trained, who are know how to deliver the sport safely. So that was considered a very high priority for all of our respondents. And then, yeah, improving access to facilities was also a key issue on the adult side, less so with youth, but I think that has become a trend this year with the pandemic and clubs not being able to access facilities. So I suspect that might be a higher priority if we were to ask people again right now. Next slide, please. So then we talked a little bit about ourselves. So how satisfied are you with Volleyball BC? And you can see here that, again, very similar responses. 66% of adults were satisfied with us, were positively satisfied with us, which went up to 94% if you counted those who ranked us as a 3, which is, you know, still on the positive side, but maybe not as strongly positive. And in the same held for the youth as well, that 77% of the youth said they were positively satisfied with us, which went up to 95% when we counted the ranking of number 3 as well. And in the feedback that we got around this question, a lot of that was linked to the programs and the events that we deliver, that people felt we ran them well and that they had a really positive experience in attending in them. Next slide, please. So then the other question we asked is, well, how likely are you to refer or recommend a friend to join or be part of Volleyball BC? And this question is seen usually as an indicator of brand loyalty. It's whether people are willing to identify with us and to promote us as somebody, somewhere that, or an organization that people should be part of. And this again scored very highly. So those who score 4 or 5 are considered like the most loyal and enthusiastic members. And then 3 would be considered more passively engaged, like we're pleased, we're pleased with you, but we're probably not going to go out there and spread the word. So we had again a very strong response. What was interesting here is that those youth who responded, there was a much bigger percentage, 82%, that answered 5. They were very likely to recommend us, which I think is great. The adults were slightly more reticent. There was more 4s than 5s, but still, generally speaking, we can see that most people were happy to recommend us as something that, as an organization that people should be involved with. And then we also did some testing of how people perceived us and what values they associated with us, or their experience with us rather. And you can see the same, interestingly, the same top 4 words came for adult and youth. And the top 4 were, number 1 was enjoyable, number 2 was fun, 3 was competitive, and 4 was organized, 5 was friendly. And then the first negative word, which was expensive, was ranked 9th in that list. So we had a top 8 attributes that were positive before we got into some more negative attributes. Next slide, please. And then we asked people in a little bit more detail, like what are our strengths and what are our weaknesses? So our strengths were very much around our organization and our coordination. Like we can run events well, we deliver good programming, we deliver a good variety of programming. The other key themes were that we communicate well with members, we provide regular updates, and they really enjoyed our social media. We're seen as having very motivated and professional staff, and our customer service actually was very well ranked as well. And we're also seen as good at building partnerships and developing initiatives with either corporations or within the community in order to move our sport further. And then the flip side of that, which is the next slide, is people then told us what they felt were our areas of improvement. So funnily enough, although communication ranked as one of our strengths, it also ranked as one of our weaknesses. We need to improve and increase our communication. We need to be more timely. We need to be more creative and engaging. We have a website that's not particularly user-friendly for people. We also heard very clearly that people wanted more opportunities to provide feedback and to engage with us. They wanted us to ask what they wanted. And we need to be a little bit more transparent around our decision-making and our strategies for what we're delivering for the sport. And then finally, again, organization came up as a weakness as well as a strength. When we implement new systems and processes or rules, it's sometimes inefficient or it's late and it's not easy to put into practice, which can be really frustrating for parents, players, and clubs. So moving on to the next slide. So, and then this slide, I am not going to talk to all of it, but it's really to give you an understanding that we ask people like, well, what should we do? Like, what's our role? Where should we go for the next 4 years? And all of these ideas came up. There was so many great themes, suggestions, initiatives, ideas that that was really fantastic for us to like plow through, to start grouping and to start developing themes that really made the foundation of the strategic plan. So you can see there, like we did a lot of work in trying to analyze what you guys said and then put it into some themes that we could form into our strategic plan. Which leads me on to our new strategic plan. So this is our brand new Volleyball BC house. Which is our strategic plan in a one-page diagram. And you're not expected to read that because I'm about to like break it down into different sections. But the concept here is that this represents our home, which is our community. And all these different elements of the strategic plan come together and help us support and build our community as a home for volleyball in BC. So now I'm going to take a moment to go through quickly on our vision, mission, and values, which form the real structure of the strategic plan, or the house. So when we looked at our vision, these are all new. They have actually shifted. The vision, mission, and our values have shifted from our last strategic plan, because again, we felt that we had done a lot of connecting with our membership, and we wanted to revise and make sure that those reflected what everybody wanted. This is not a strategic plan just for us as a standalone organization. It's a strategic plan for our membership and for the community as a whole. So what we heard about the vision was people wanted it to be athlete-centered, participant-centered. So without participation, there's no Volleyball BC, there's no sport. So that needs to be central to everything we do. We also heard that people wanted it to be inclusive. It needed to be about creating positive shared experiences. And then we also overwhelmingly heard that volleyball's really fun. It's why people do it. It's what they enjoy, and evoking that kind of emotion about why we play needs to be front and center into our vision. And so stemming out of that, we have established our vision as igniting lifelong passion for volleyball, which we feel is a summary in a sentence of what we're trying to achieve moving forward, and something that is short, that we can live up to, and it's memorable. So that was the vision piece. For the mission, we again asked people what they thought. They wanted us to be a leader. Like, they felt that our role in the province is to lead the sport. So we need to step up as leaders. Our focus needs to be participation, not exclusivity. So there needs to be opportunities for everyone to participate. And they also made the comment that our previous mission statement very much focused on excellence and excelling. And that is really a key part of our plan and why people play volleyball. But there are also other reasons that they do too. So it's important to reflect that people participate, that they develop, that they share their experiences. And so we felt that the natural combination of that was to lead enjoyable and safe volleyball experiences for people to participate, share, develop, and excel. That's our mission as our organization. And then underneath the house structure, at the foundation of it, are our values. And again, we previously had single words for our values, and the feedback and our belief was that we wanted to move them from being more passive to being much more active. So they shape how we behave and they bring the plan to life. And so we needed to have phrases that were more active and to define what they really meant. So these are the 4 values that came up. We surveyed people. Again, we had asked people what words they associated with us, and we felt that these 4 values very much reflected what people had said. And that is that everybody gets to play, that we respond with agility, that we lead with integrity, and that we foster a connected community. So I'm just going to pause there and just ask Alex if there are any questions, or whether we will go on to the key initiatives. So I'm hearing that there aren't any questions. So again, if you guys have any questions, please cut and paste, put them into the chat. This next section is when we get into the more exciting stuff about what we're going to be doing. And so if you're able to, if you have a question, identify which key initiative it is. There'll be a series of letters and numbers, and just help us out so that we can understand which question or which initiative you're asking your question about. So this is, so the vision, the mission, and the values are that strategic framework that form the structure of the house. But once we've built that house, we then need to create the pillars that exist within it. So we turned our focus to, like, what are our goals over the next 4 years? And so from the themes and the ideas that came out from our consultation, these 4 goals are forming the main 4 pillars of our strategic plan. The first one is to foster a safe environment. We need to put into place leading standards and practices that protect the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of everyone involved. The second goal was that we need to strengthen the pathways. Players, coaches, and referees need to learn, grow, and excel on the pathway they choose in our sport. The fourth goal was to expand our reach. So programs, facilities, and resources are in place throughout BC to create inclusive and welcoming opportunities for everyone to access. And then number 4 was we need to support our community. So the needs of our volleyball community are met through strong relationships and meaningful services. There are our 4 goals for the next 4 years. And to bring them to life, we then have identified 6 key initiatives that we'll be looking to carry out over the next 4 years to bring the goals to life. So the 6 key initiatives, which you can see on the screen, each one of those relate to at least one of the goals, and many of them actually relate to several goals. So the initiatives cross-cut a number of the goals, and we're about to now go into more detail on each of these. But before I do that, I just wanted to make the point that this is where we have reflected and tried to take account of the fact that we are in a pandemic here. So we have, when we talk about these key initiatives and the activities that we'll be delivering, we have started to define these are the activities that we can carry out during the pandemic, and then there's going to be a set or series of activities that we'll be able to carry out once we're fully back up and running and it's post-pandemic. So we will be continually evaluating the activities that we undertake under these goals and key initiatives, and they will evolve as we know what long-standing impacts there might be from the pandemic. So moving into the next 6 areas, I'm also going to take this opportunity to introduce different members of the team, because each of these key initiatives are led by a different staff person within Volleyball BC. So I'm going to kick it off first because the first one is actually me, so you get to listen to me for a little bit longer. Key initiative A is to become a leader in safe sport practices and implementation. So as I've already said, ensuring safety standards was really highly ranked for everybody when we surveyed them. And it's really also growing nationally in importance and within the province. I don't think anyone can fail to have heard the various stories that have emerged from sport over the last few years. And it's no longer optional. Like we can't just half-heartedly address safety. It really needs to be at the center of everything that we're doing. Even though we're amateur sport, we have an obligation to protect and to report and to minimize all the risks to people who are involved in our sport. And we're accountable to our members and to funders and also to our participants. So safety is physical, mental, emotional. It encompasses every part of the experience, from stepping out onto the court to going to practice, to communication between coaches and players, and also to interrelationships between those on the team. So in terms of activities that we will be taking in the pandemic phase on this front, we are going to be proactively engaging nationally and provincially to inform and shape policy and practices. Because as you can see from our statement, we don't want to just be meeting the bare minimum standards for safety. We want to be a leader in this area. We want to be groundbreaking, and we want to be known for the fact that we deliver safe practices and policies. So the engagement on a national and provincial level, that's already started. I sit on the Safe Sport Working Group, which is led for the province by Volleyball BC. We have been engaging with Volleyball Canada, but we will be more proactive at connecting with those organizations that we can really learn from in this area. We're going to be establishing a Safe Sport Working Group. So we really want to bring together representatives from our community. They could be parents, they could be coaches, referees, club administrators, players. We want to have a working group that will be able to inform and oversee this whole area of work for us. And that's something that we'll be looking to do essentially towards the latter end of this year. Our first point as well is to do a complete review of the volleyball system and also the different areas of programming. So we want to look at, like, what are other sports doing? How are they addressing safety? Are there some key communication, education, policy pieces that they've implemented that has really shifted that dial in terms of safety? We also want to identify where we're strong and where there are gaps in our system. So are there areas where there are opportunities for things to happen which we don't really want to have happen? So that review will allow us to have a starting point, like how safe is our sport, how people rated that as highly as possible, but what does that mean to different people? We need to do a little bit of a process in terms of reviewing and understanding what's out there and what it means for our sport. A fourth area of work is that we are going to be refining and reviewing all of our policies and procedures around responsive issue resolution. We have a responsibility as the governing body for the sport to be able to resolve any issue that comes forward to us in terms of disciplinary complaints, safety, whatever that looks like. And we have not reviewed this area of our policy for a while. The process is not always efficient right now, and there are becoming more and more requirements of us in terms of reporting to the government or reporting to Volleyball Canada in how well we handle these issues. And I think it's an area for us to work on and improve, and that will be something that we undertake this year. And then finally, by the end of this year or the pandemic phase, we want to come back to you with a safe sport action plan. So the outcome there will be a comprehensive plan of different activities and actions that we can take to really drive forward our sport in this area. And our aim is to have that done by Q4 so that we're ready to then move into more direct delivery of other requirements in the next coming years. So that's key initiative A. And I am now going to hand it over to Alex Pappas, our manager of volleyball operations, who is going to talk to you about key initiative B.
Thanks, Emma. Hello, everybody. So key initiative B is the one that I'm responsible for, and that is to increase the awareness and understanding of the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of participants in volleyball. So the first thing we're going to be doing is creating a definition of positive physical, mental, and emotional well-being in volleyball. We're going to be doing this through research and information gathering, and we'll be looking at different definitions and what other sport organizations have in place for the wellness of their athletes, coaches, and officials. The next thing we will be looking to do is to conduct a wellness survey of members to identify gaps, potential support, and opportunities. So at the moment, the idea behind the survey is to gain some insight on what kind of external factors affect somebody's ability to participate at their best in volleyball. Now, this won't be limited to athletes, but will also be directed at coaches and officials. Now, throughout all of this, we are going to be looking to consult with external professional groups. This will be one of the more important pieces for us because we are hoping that the professional guidance will help us tailor our approach to what our members most need. From there, we'll be developing an action plan, which will be shaped by the wellness survey and the professional consultation to integrate the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of participants into volleyball. This will be everything from communication to members to resources on the website. And from that, we'll be identifying training and resources for staff and program delivery. So when everything is ready to go, we'll be looking to provide training to our staff. The goal is to be able to identify when member wellness is not being addressed. So the overall goal of this piece of the project is to shed light on the fact that there are many factors that influence someone's performance in volleyball, and that these factors are not limited to players only. We want people to understand that a bad day at work or school or many other things may have an impact on the way someone coaches, plays, or referees that particular day. And that's it for me. I believe it's over to Adrian.
Thanks, Alex. Hi, everyone. I am looking after key initiative C, which is to create and develop a plan to support the recruitment and retention of coaches and referees. So we have a number of items that we're going to take a look at here. As Emma had discussed earlier, one of the main issues facing volleyball as identified in our survey was the availability of coaches. Being part of the club system myself and an administrator in a club, I know all too well how difficult it is to find coaches to place onto teams and to get them trained up to a level that's appropriate. And so we want to make sure that we're addressing that. Also, when we were identifying the primary areas for developing the sport, both our adults and youth surveyed identified coach education and development as their #1 priority, and referee education and development was ranked #3 by both adults and youth. So obviously a priority within the people that we surveyed, and one that we were aware of as well. So some of the activities that we're going to be focusing on over the next little while, we're going to be conducting a full analysis of the coach and referee experience to identify gaps, opportunities, priorities for improvement. We're going to spend about the first half of this year in the research and information gathering phase. We're going to be surveying coaches, both past and present, to help develop profiles of what coaches within the volleyball system in BC look like. So why they coach or referee, how long have they coached for, what level they participate at, and if they're no longer participating, why? Just to get a clear picture of who our referees and coaches are, so that we can help to tailor development opportunities to best support them as they participate in the system. We're going to take an opportunity to develop some baseline numbers and growth patterns that we've seen over the past few years, just to get an idea of where we are and where we might be heading. As well as completing a needs assessment for determining which areas of development need to be addressed both immediately and over the long term. And lastly, we'll be contacting other sport organizations and interviewing them to see what we can glean and develop some best practices from what they've learned and what they're doing. Lots of people are in the same boat as us, and if we're all sharing information, we can all be a little bit better. We're going to look to use technology for innovative delivery and improved access to coach and referee education. So whether that's through an upgraded website, videos that we're producing, social media, or virtually through video conferencing, there's lots of opportunities to use technology to increase and expand the delivery of those educational pieces to further develop people and coaches and referees throughout the province. Again, following up with that, creating communication and educational tools to clearly demonstrate the pathways and opportunities. Basically, what we're looking to do is to streamline the process and provide coaches and referees a roadmap to develop to the level that best fits for them, be that recreational, competitive, or high performance opportunities. We want to make sure they understand the steps that they need to take to be able to move through the pathway and achieve the level that they'd like to be participating at. Following each season, we're going to start implementing and surveying our coaches and referees to get an idea of what their experiences were over the past season, to find out what they enjoyed, what they didn't enjoy, and how that experience can be improved. And with that information, we can take that and further tailor the programs that we're introducing for development. And then lastly, throughout this year, we're going to be developing and launching a coach and referee development plan so that we have something that we can follow, so we can provide that roadmap for the coaches and referees and be able to start moving in a positive direction with their development. So ultimately, what we're looking to achieve here is that the coaching referee needs in our sport are met. As I mentioned before, coaches are challenging to come across, and when you find them, you don't want to let them go. So while we don't want to compromise on quality or safety, we do want to make the process as easy as possible for our coaches and referees to participate. Additionally to that, we want to increase the retention of the coaches in the system. We want to make sure that the people that are participating now continue to participate. We all know how challenging it is to have coaches that you support and help develop, and they walk away after a year or two, maybe because they had a bad experience or they just didn't understand what they were getting into. So we want to make sure that we're providing them with as much information as possible and aiding them in their development. And following that is the retention and maintenance of the number of referees at all levels of the system. Referees are often overlooked as people that are there, but not as necessarily an important part of the game. But we all know when we're in the last set and we're playing for the championship point, no one wants the referee to be making the final call, but they're important to be there, and we want to make sure that we're developing them at the same level we're developing our coaches, so that that experience is positive across the board for everyone. And lastly, we just want to make sure that we increase the awareness and understanding of the pathways for athletes, referees, and coaches, how they access the information and where to go for help in their development through the process. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. If you do have any questions about Initiative C, please add them to the chat and we'll address them at the end of the discussion around the initiatives. That is it for me. I'd like to turn things over to our technical director, Jay Tremonti, for Initiative D.
Thanks, A. So yeah, as A mentioned, I'm the technical director of Volleyball BC, and I'm going to be leading key Initiative D. And so that initiative is to create and deliver a strategy for sustainable high-performance programming that prepares BC athletes, coaches, and referees to perform and contribute at a national and international level. So let's break this down a little bit. Lots of terms in this one. And so what do we mean about high-performance programming? When I think of high performance in BC, I think of the diverse group of athletes, coaches, and refs, impacting our sport at the highest level. I think the great part about our province is we have athletes, coaches, and refs from all across the province impacting our sport. And so we want to make sure that our programming supports the development of those individuals getting to that level. Sustainable stands out for me in this initiative. So coming through this pandemic, we want to ensure that our high performance programs are able to continue on in a sustainable manner and are resilient for the long term. And then number three, I think an important point to point out is that we want to develop athletes, coaches, and refs to perform at the highest level. And so I think this is an important part, because when we think of our high performance programming, we probably think about Team BC. And so, we want to make sure that our programming, including Team BC, helps support all the different streams of participation, in this game. So why this initiative? So we heard from youth that, it's a priority that we have high performance programming within that is delivered by Volleyball BC. And I think more importantly, when we sat down and talked to the different stakeholders, we just heard, how proud all those that are in our community are of those individuals that came from all over the province to impact our sport nationally and internationally. I think we see it every summer with our beach, indoor, and sitting national teams, the BC athletes that are leading those teams to different levels. And I'm super excited to watch the BC contributions at the Olympics this summer. And so it's a priority for us that we have a strong system to support the development of those individuals to impact nationally and internationally. So starting with the end, this initiative, that the outcomes that we want to see is really just an overall stronger talent identification and development system. And so in order to have that strong system, we want to increase that communication and clarity of what objectives are a part of our programming and what is really needed to drive high performance. We want to have that sustainability so that we are continuing to have a lasting impact over the long term. We want to interact with our community. I think that was a big positive of this strategic plan experience, is that we have a lot of knowledge in BC, and we have a lot of individuals that are passionate and proud, and they want to have an influence and impact. So we want to reestablish an external high performance advisory group to help really drive the strategy behind our high performance programming. And we want to have this plan in place, this roadmap to high performance that is clear and transparent, and it really acts as a tool for us to guide high performance, and then also evaluate and monitor how we are doing at developing those athletes, coaches, and referees. So again, in terms of the key activities, really revolves around that high performance plan. And so I think a big part of the plan, or what we envision for the plan, is that it's going to really clarify the purpose of high performance. It's going to guide the high performance pathway in BC. It's going to really emphasize what's important, and it's going to be a tool to monitor and evaluate how we're performing with the development. So we're really going to start by researching. You know, we want to research how we can develop a committee that is engaging experts effectively. You know, right now our high performance committee is more of a staff-driven one and deals a lot with operations, and we want to shift to an external committee that engages our experts across the whole province. We want to research to connect with different sports in our province and with different PSOs across Canada to really engage in what the best practices are in developing talent. And we want to try and find, you know, what are the best practices to power high performance and to fund it. And so that's going to be a review of our internal kind of revenue expense structure, you know, the overall investment strategy by Volleyball BC in high performance. You know, we're going to talk to those PSOs again and those other sport organizations in BC to figure out what's working well for them. And we're going to try and access some funding opportunities that we're maybe not accessing currently. And so that research is really going to inform the structure or the skeleton to a plan, and that plan will be developed. We foresee that plan being developed in early 2022, so that we can then implement it for the planning process in 2023. And for how our process works is we typically will be planning for the next fiscal year and our next kind of high performance year in the fall. And so our hope is that this plan is going to be researched and developed and implemented in fall 2022, so that for 2023 and beyond, the plan is in place and we can implement it moving forward. Another part of this initiative revolved a little bit more around, you know, what is something we can do now? What is something we can implement now as opposed to just research? And that's where, you know, a new program, a new entry into our talent development system was an opportunity we saw within the pandemic. And so, like our vision, you know, we really connected with that term ignite. And so, you know, we're excited to announce a new entry-level Team BC program called Team BC Ignite. We're going to be sharing details with all of our members on that in the coming weeks. But we're really excited to implement that this summer. You know, we're really confident in the experience we're going to be providing there. And, you know, we really feel that program is going to ignite a lifelong passion for athletes in our province. And again, I'm really excited about seeing, you know, where that program leads our athletes. I think that's it from me. Again, if there's any questions about anything high performance, you know, we'd love to chat more during the Q&A period. So please post those questions in the chat. And I believe it's over to Kay.
Thanks, Jay. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to be talking about key initiative E, which is to promote inclusion and diversity in our governance, programs, and activities. So one of the key themes that has emerged from our membership feedback and consultation was improving participation and accessibility. So a lot of the programs that we're offering currently are, you know, primarily in the Lower Mainland, and we're not reaching out to all the regions. Not every region has the same demographics and opportunities and programs. So we're really looking to expand our resources, programs, and activities so that we provide an inclusive and welcoming environment for everyone to be able to access our sport. So going from that, one of the first things that we are going to be doing is basically doing an analysis and research into our participation profile. So we want to know who is currently participating in our sport in BC, and kind of just getting that first initial research from the database that we have, as well as looking at the overall BC population. So the community demographics, where people are living, what kind of sports are offered there, in terms of low income families, Indigenous communities, gender diversity, people with disabilities. So all of that encompassing that. So we want to know kind of just generally who our sport is catered to. From there, finding the gaps in our membership. So identifying those specific groups, making those connections, understanding what those barriers might be that they're not able to access our sport, and making those connections, finding role models and champions in those specific groups that we've identified, and move forward from there. One of the key government priorities is to increase participation in underrepresented groups. So I think this is one of the first steps that we're going to do, is basically doing a research of kind of who we're catering to and the gaps that we're missing in our population. The next is to establish an inclusion and diversity working group. So we want to do, again, a research here, understanding what this will actually look like, the roles, functions, those that we need to involve. So one of the first steps that we've already taken, Emma and myself, we've contacted Sport for Life and spoken to someone there, Kabir, regarding kind of just what the work that they're doing, and like what are the first steps as an organization? Is it looking at our policies, internally as staff, so all of that. And I think that was a really great first step for us, just to understand, because this is a very big area, and there is a lot, and we want to make sure that we do it the right way. So those key first steps have been taken, and then moving forward from that, establishing obviously the working group and getting and going from there, getting a strategy for a diversity and inclusion for the organization. One of the key groups is newcomers, and through that we've actually been granted some funding from Sport BC to pilot a newcomer introduction program. So now we have a targeted group that we've been able to identify, and we are going to be piloting a program for newcomers. So one of the key steps with that is first identifying the newcomers within BC, where they reside, the groups, making those connections with those groups. That's really important to get that first initial introduction, and seeing how we're going to be able to implement this program and this introductory program into the community. So we're going to be doing 3 pilot projects in 3 identified communities by the end of this year, hopefully by the end of the year, or going into Q1 of next year. And from that, we hope that that will be kind of the first initial connection or interaction for these newcomers with our sport. Then, of course, from there, going and introducing them to programs that happen in the community, connecting them with clubs, and how our sport kind of goes from there. So this area really is, we're trying to expand our reach, that is our goal for through our strategic plan. And this year is primarily going to be focused on research, making those connections with the groups that we've identified, and really setting out a plan for the future years to come, and how we're going to kind of move forward from this. We want to make sure that we do increase participation in our, if that's either with our governance or in our programming, and adapting that diversity and inclusion strategy for the organization. And now I'll pass it on to Roz, who will go over the final initiative.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for attending tonight. As Kay mentioned, I am bringing us home sort of on the last key initiative here. So for those of you that are still with us, thank you for that. And then Emma will be wrapping things up before we address any questions. So I see lots of familiar names in the participant list, but I am, for those of you that don't know, I work as the Manager of Member Relations and HR at Volleyball BC. And I may have seen several of you at events and that kind of thing, or we've connected over email. So nice to have you joining us tonight. So thank you for that. The initiative that I am leading on is Key Initiative F, and it's to implement an outreach and engagement strategy to connect, communicate, and serve our community. So although I'm leading on this, I am working with other staff at Volleyball BC, and as I'm sure you've heard from other staff members talk on their initiatives, there's a lot involved in terms of surveying and connecting with our membership. So there will be some overlap with this initiative. And just as Emma mentioned earlier, some items identified as areas of opportunity included communication and openness to feedback. So with those identified, what we really intend to do is to work to improve and increase our communication with all our members and ensure it is timely and engaging. We also intend to provide regular opportunities for our membership to share feedback with us, and to also ensure there is transparency around our decision-making and our strategies, because that is something that came up in our feedback. So if we look at the activities that are outlined there in terms of reviewing our governance and operations, we will work to establish a governance working group, and that'll be in sort of the second quarter coming up here in 2021. So we will research and review our governance structure in other sports, research and review the governance structure in other sports, and also bylaws for membership and voting. We're also going to outline our committees, working groups, and key operational areas, projects, and events. And that's sort of going to go into the third quarter of 2021 as well. We will be developing our outreach and engagement strategy for development and research. That'll be something that we're working on and have already kind of started early in this year. And then from there, we're going to identify club service and support opportunities. So the plan is to really survey our clubs and our member organizations for ongoing feedback. We want to provide lots of opportunity for you to connect with us and to share what your needs are. And obviously, there's a lot of consideration here with sort of the rapidly changing environment due to the pandemic. We've tried to stay engaged with our membership and to solicit your feedback. And so we might be contacting and reaching out to you multiple times. Like, you know, we might be looking at a Q2, a Q3, and a Q4 contact. And it's really just so we can get sort of an idea and stay on the pulse of where you're at and where your needs are throughout the rest of this year, and then going forward from there. The other plan this year, and we have done this annually in the past, but this year we really want to develop a robust annual membership survey. And with that, we want to identify key indicators and compile results in order to create a strategy for 2022. So we will obviously look at our annual membership survey and build that out. Sorry, I just distracted by the question caught my eye there. So we'll build that out and hope that we can really work to gather your feedback. And then we will also be launching a new website, hopefully by the end of this year. That's the plan. And then for 2022, we're also looking to launch a member hub on the website. So that's going to kind of be like a resource and information center. So with all of that said, and again, I'm sure you can hear where the overlap will be in terms of our surveys. Really the biggest thing for outcomes and looking at those numbers that Emma talked about as far as satisfaction and loyalty, we want to maintain or increase those referability scores and satisfaction among our members. So if we can gather your feedback, we can use that information to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our membership. So we want to increase engagement and obviously our communication and social media channels, and just make sure we're providing a lot of opportunity for you to connect with us, because we've heard you and it's important. You've let us know that it's important to be able to provide us with your feedback. So this initiative is very connected to the feedback that you've given us, and we'll be looking to engage with you, as I said, more frequently throughout this year, which means we really need you and are asking you to, and really encouraging you to participate in those opportunities as they will come across your inbox, or it may be a phone call. And then also we understand that the surveys and discussions take time. Like for those of you that did the interviews with us for this strategic plan, we were so grateful to have those opportunities to sit and talk with you. And we just hope that given the importance of our membership has placed on outreach and communication during our research, that we will really be looking towards you and hoping we can count on you to assist us in providing that feedback. So we hope we can have that sort of open exchange of dialogue. And that's it. I'm going to pass it back over to Emma, who will kind of wrap things up for us tonight.
Thank you, Roz. So that's a lot to take in. I know. It's a plan, it's a strategy, and we have time to implement it. So as you can see, we're pretty excited. We've got some big buckets and some very lofty goals to try and achieve. But we feel very good about the plan and about the fact that we heard from all of you and that we feel that this really reflects what our members need. So moving forward, our next steps are basically, some of these have been done. Like we have developed some milestones. We're working on our key indicators. We are going to be continually reviewing our activities. As I said, you know, we're currently in a pandemic. So that's why the activities that you've just heard about are quite heavy on the research, on the planning phase, because we are going to be somewhat limited in what we can do while we're still supporting everyone at trying to get back to volleyball as fast as possible. Once that happens, then we will be moving and reviewing our activities and moving into the delivery of more like concrete elements that will come out of those plans. So part of our commitment to you and to our board is that we will be doing regular reporting. So our board, as having governance and oversight of the strategic plan, will be receiving an update every board meeting. But we also want to introduce some updates for you as well, for our members. So we want to share our progress with the members and the community, and we will be putting in place a couple of opportunities each year for us to connect with you and give our update. And the other thing, as Roz said, I think I don't really need to say much more on this, she said it very eloquently, is that we really, really want to hear from you, and that we feel that there are lots of opportunities in these key initiatives for people to get involved and to provide their feedback. As we've heard mentioned, there's a number of different working groups that will be formed, and so we will be going out to our members to see who wants to be involved. We're hoping that rather than dump a lot of information on you at one time like this session, we can do some more dedicated sessions on each of those key initiatives where people can put forward ideas and thoughts about it. So there will be definitely opportunities for you to get involved. So I think I just want to finish it there, really, to say that this is a plan, and I said it from the start, we see it as not just a plan for our organization, it's a plan for our members and it's a plan for our community. And we're just very excited to get it going. So before we conclude, because we have taken a good hour of your time, I want to just check in and see if there are any comments or questions. And I can see a couple of thank yous, which is great. There's also a comment there that lots of coaches coach because they have children that are participating, and I think that's a really good point. It's very clear in a lot of coaching, the coaches that come forward, that they're there because their child has a passion for it, and we want to be able to support them in doing that. Did we have any other questions? Let me just see from our moderator behind the scenes if there's anything else that we need to say. Nope. Okay, so I think it sounds like we did a very thorough job, or you're overwhelmed by the amount of information that we provided you with. But we do want to leave you by saying that we'll be following up with this with all of our email addresses. This will be posted on our website to share with those who couldn't make it tonight. And we definitely, as I say, this is the start of the conversation and not the end of the conversation. So we are looking forward to getting going from now, and we welcome your input and your participation. So have a great night, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening.